The mature whitetail buck, without a doubt, is the most sought-after trophy in North America. Every fall, millions of sportsmen across the country hit the woods in search of these elusive creatures. Some hunters say when a big buck reaches maturity, surviving 5, 6, or even 7 hunting seasons, they become a different species and sometimes even unkillable. What does it take to harvest one of these giants? Better yet, what does it take to harvest them consistently, year after year? This week, we take an in-depth look at this specific question and how the guys from Team 200 knock down the kind of bucks that most hunters only dream about on a regular basis. When it comes to harvesting world-class whitetails, the guys that make up Team 200 know how to get it done. With well over a century of combined knowledge in the whitetail woods and countless big bucks on their walls, what do these guys know, and how do they get it done year in and year out? Every good game plan has to start somewhere, and with Team 200, nothing can replace the importance of some good old-fashioned scouting.
You know, I think in general you have deer hunters, and then you have hunters that are after specific deer. And for the last 2 decades, I've really focused on hunting specific animals. And, you know, when I break it down, I probably actually spend 10 days scouting to every one that I spend hunting.
The first thing I go to is the MoonGuide. I'm just gonna check when the red moon times are, especially the early and late seasons when you're depending on deer to break cover to eat or feed. And you'll just notice that there's certain times of the month where these deer are more active than others.
And this is kind of an out-of-the-bag secret now, but the Deer Hunter's MoonGuide can tell you when those mature bucks are going to be on their feet in daylight.
Doing all that legwork and observation and figuring out exactly where you need to be to kill that animal. If you're patient enough and you've got enough discipline to do that work and to wait for the perfect time, most of the time you can go in and get it done the first time in.
Summer can be a great time to catch big bucks with their guards down. Bachelor groups are often seen gorging themselves on the lush green leaves of soybeans and alfalfa during the dog days of summer. But even with the open of archery season still months away, the oldest and wisest animals still don't like to be seen. These seasoned hunters know there are only a handful of days each month when they have their best chance of catching these giants on the move in daylight. Whether it's during the heat of the summer months or the middle of bow season, these guys believe the red moon is the key to daylight activity when it comes to chasing giant whitetails.
You know, I get asked all the time, what is the red moon? What's the deal about the red moon? I tell you, in its simplest form, the red moon is a handful of days every month when either the overhead or underfoot moon peaks at prime time. First and last hour of daylight when deer want to move anyway. The best nights to catch those big old bucks out feeding before dark are right on the red moon.
To say this is just, it's an incredible animal. Biggest buck I've ever seen.
And the only nights I was able to actually get footage of this buck during daylight was right on the red moon. You know, that was the light bulb moment for me when it comes to my summer scouting.
Got some video of him this summer in velvet and a couple times out of velvet.
And I knew at that point that I'd been missing the boat for the last 10 years and that I needed to start paying attention to the red moon days on the MoonGuide for not just my hunting season, but for summer scouting too.
You know, for me, I've killed 7 Boone and Crockett's, 1 over 200.
Just trying to put some of the pieces to the puzzle together, and that's what you got to do on these big deer. You can't just show up and expect to kill them. So,
you know, the MoonGuide played a huge role in the hunt for Elvis. Everyone knows it was a 3-year hunt. A lot of things happened in between, but I was waiting for the first red moon and the right wind direction. Ended up being one of the best velvet nights of my life. You know, at that year, he was probably 220-inch whitetail, literally, 35 yards from me, standing in a bean field feeding. There were several things that I took away from that encounter with him. I knew what field he was using early season. I knew what wind he was using to get in there. He was pretty active around those red moon times.
The moon phase it doesn't get any better than it was tonight, and the moon phase was about 7 o'clock. And it's like 10 after 7, and we're just now back to the ranger, so he's using the moon.
What happened at the end of that, there was a dog that came through and actually spooked some deer in the timber, and he exited the field. So, the first place I'm gonna go look is where did he go when he felt threatened. I know where he came from, I know where he was going, I know why he was there, when he was there, and now the other piece of information is I know his exit route.
I've been hunting this buck for 3 years now. I usually get 1 or 2 opportunities at him a year, and then he just turns into a ghost the rest of the season. I feel truly blessed to even share the same woods with an animal like this.
Killed the biggest whitetail in my life. Guys spend thousands of dollars on their setup, but in my opinion, this little $20 guide that tells you when to go in and when not to go in is invaluable in my whitetail, success.
This segment was brought to you by MoonGuide. Plan your best hunt.
The Deer Hunter's MooGuide tells you the best days, times, and locations to encounter a mature buck on his feet during daylight hours. Are you tired of hunting nocturnal trail camera bucks? Do you ever wonder why bucks only show up during daylight on certain days each year? The Deer Hunter's MooGuide is here to help. The MooGuide is unlike any other lunar tool you've ever seen. It's not related to the moon's phase. The MooGuide utilizes elements such as the moon's gravitational pull, position, and other scientific elements that affect deer movement. Simply spin the MooGuide dial to find the peak hunting times and best hunting locations for improving your chance of encountering a big buck on his feet. Save time and money by knowing the best days and weeks each year for effective preseason scouting, scheduling time off work, or planning out-of-state hunts by focusing on the MooGuide's red moon periods. Hunt smarter, not harder. Adam Hayes is one of the few hunters to ever harvest 4 bucks that surpass the 200-inch mark. What's his secret? Adam has been utilizing MooGuide data for nearly 2 decades, harvesting 10 Boone and Crockett whitetails during this period. Over the past few seasons, Adams shared the MooGuide with some of his closest hunting partners, and their results have been unprecedented. Are you ready to experience results like this? Don't miss out on your chance to own this incredible hunting tool. Get yours today at MoonGuide.com.
Being a hunter and an outfitter creates its own unique challenges for Chris Seymour. No stranger to the giants that call the cedar thickets and vast CRP fields that encompass this part of the country, this savvy hunter knows by concentrating on MooGuide data, he and his clients experience the best daylight action during the red moon. Year in and year out, Chris manages to put a Kansas bruiser on the ground while his clients enjoy the same kind of success.
I remember when Adam Hayes III put this into my hands about 7-8 years ago and said, you really need to take a look at this. And I had my doubts, but I also run a ton of trail cameras, and I've been running hunts in Kansas for about 16 years. So I just started looking at when these deer are showing up on camera in the daylight, when they're moving, and looking at dates with the MooGuide, and it's just amazing how things were lining up. You just want everything on your side, and the moon is one of them if you're going to plan an out-of-state hunt.
What a stud. My biggest Kansas whitetail ever.
When clients call me and they want to know when they're coming to hunt, I literally get this thing out, I look at it, I actually tell clients it's more important to be there on the red moon than on opening day. because the moon's going to affect the deer movement more than pressure. It's a game changer. It really drives you to hunt certain days and you're going to see more deer.
Oh, it's a monster. Holy cow. Look at this Kansas giant. Oh my God. Look at it. He went about 125 yards down into the brush, and you put this one in the books for see more bucks.
Every year, more and more hunters are experiencing incredible results by incorporating the MoonGuide's data into their game plan, and the results speak for themselves. By hunting smarter and not harder, focusing their efforts around the red moon and its influence on daylight activity for mature deer, numerous MoonGuide followers are taking the biggest bucks of their lives. Planning an out-of-state hunting trip can be a strategic nightmare. Most hunters try and schedule these adventures around the November breeding season, but determining what stage of the rut happens when and throwing unpredictable weather factors into the equation can leave most hunters scratching their heads when it comes to picking the right dates for a trip far from home. Team 200 members have enjoyed tremendous success in November following the red moon and using the information from the MoonGuide to predict the best weeks for success months in advance.
All right.
Traveling from his home in South Carolina every year to the Midwest in search of monster bucks, Joe Miles has consistently harvested multiple giant whitetails by scheduling his trips around the red moon.
A lot of guys will get trail camera pictures of these giant bucks, and there'll be all at night, and then there'll be one picture of him at daylight. Why? Why did he get up and move that one particular day? And this is why. The moon's influence on whitetail deer is huge. I've killed over 15 mature bucks using the guide, and on my 29-acre track in Illinois, I've shot a 165, a 186, and a 183 back to back to back, all on the red moon. Look at this thing. My goodness. It worked like a champ, and again, man, Deer Hunter's MoonGuide, it's an inexpensive tool, been around since the 90s, and I can't say enough about it. It just, it's got me on so many big deer and gotten me daylight action, and that's what it's all about. You know, we travel from South Carolina to come out to the Midwest, and our days are limited, and we follow this thing every year religiously.
Ohio native Adam Hayes knows the importance of scheduling his trips far from home by the MoonGuide. By keying in on the best days for daylight activity, Adam harvested back-to-back-to-back booners in Kansas, with all three giants making fatal mistakes within the exact hour of the red moon.
I'm here in Kansas, hunting with my good buddy Chris Seymour and my other best friend, the red moon.
If I had to narrow it down to one factor or one tactic that's had the biggest influence on my success when it comes to killing mature deer, it's been paying strict attention to the moon.
Yes. That's why I'm here. I schedule all my hunts out of state around the MoonGuide. 5:44 is when I texted Chris and Adam that I just killed my 4th 200. If you look at the date on the MoonGuide today, the red moon was at 5:41. I don't know how you get much closer than that.
Even though I didn't kill him, last year I had an opportunity at my 5th 200-inch whitetail. Only day I've seen this buck on the hoof during daylight all year, and it was right on the red moon. I don't know how much more accurate you can get.
I had him in bow range out of this tree last night at 10 yards. I couldn't get a shot.
You guys spend thousands of dollars every year on their equipment, hunting leases, outfitted hunts, food plots, etc. The MoonGuide is the least expensive product you're going to buy all year, but probably the most valuable information you could have. And you can look at this thing months in advance and know the best weeks, the best days to be hunting, so you can plan your summer scouting, you can plan your out-of-state hunts, and of course, at home, you know the best days that you need to be in the field and where you need to be on those days and at what time.
If you're driving down the highway and you're like, wow, there's 20 or 30 deer in that field tonight. It's amazing how if you start paying attention, how some of these dates, really lined up with what's going on.
You can't just pick a day, dial it in, see if it's red moon, go kill your deer. You just need to understand that this thing will tell you when that deer is probably going to get up out of its bed, and he may only move 100, maybe 200 yards. But if you know where he's going and you can set up along that travel corridor, you will probably kill that deer.
I bet he weighs 280 pounds. Man, what a buck. He is something else.